Hi, this is Hesper Hyman, and this is EDL 850, Module 1. So first, a little bit about me. I've been in education for 19 years. I did 6 years when I first came out of college. Then I went into banking and did customer service, and then I went back into education where I've been ever since. I started with FHSU working on my master's in 2018. I've been married to my husband Cody for about 22 years this March, very excited. And we have 2 sons that are both out of high school. One graduates college this semester and the other will be getting married in June. We do live on a ranch on the very northeast corner of New Mexico. My children are the 5th generation there, and so I kind of consider that my second and sometimes my third job. So a little bit about my professional life. I'm currently with Clayton Municipal Schools. This is my first year there in Clayton, New Mexico. I teach computer technology and career development for grades 9 through 12. I also teach 1 junior high class. Before that, I was in a small K through 12 school in the far northwest corner of Texas. It's about 10 miles from Clayton, so I didn't move very far. While I was there for 12 years, and I taught 4th and 5th grade math and science for 10 years, and then moved up to 6th and 7th grade math and science. Along the way, I taught a lot of other things as well. I started working on my master's with FHSU in the fall of 2018, and I'll be finishing this spring. Yay, me! So support for public schools. When we look at the different areas, we first look at the local. The support for public schools in the local government comes from mainly funding by local taxpayers. People have school choice that's granted at the local level. The local schools are governed by local school boards. These are the ones that establish our curricula, hire personnel, school closings, consolidations, and construction. They implement and monitor policies and procedures, and they account for budgeting of state, federal, and local funds. At the state level, primary accountability and oversight of government runs the schools. They establish State Department of Education, pass laws governing school practices. When you look at some of the larger things that have come down the pipe in the last 10 years, Common Core standards in New Mexico, where I'm at now, and then Texas has had TEKS for a lot of years. These started out as benchmarkings for basically reading and math, but have then evolved into developing standards in other subject areas as well. Federal, 88% of our total funding just comes from the federal. The federal is mainly there for filling the gaps as needed. Some of the things that the federal look at are from the Department of Health and Human Services, such as Head Start programs, and the Department of Agriculture for school lunch programs. The federal is there to promote student achievement and preparation for global competitiveness. And then the biggest thing that I think comes out of the federal side of the equation into education is ensuring equal access to education. We look at such things as Elementary and Secondary Education Act, the No Child Left Behind. You're looking at Titles 1 through Title 9. These include civil rights acts in there. The FERPA, Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Acts, the Workforce Initiative and Opportunities Acts, and Higher Education Act, and the Rehabilitation Act. So these are all federal laws that have come into effect that then the state then goes in and regulates and then is passed on to the local level. So really, who's in charge of the school systems? At the local level, the school board, these are unpaid elected positions. Their duties should be such things as establishing the curricula, hiring personnel, and deciding when schools should be closed or consolidated or constructed. They are there to implement and monitor policies and procedures as they come out of either the federal or the state level, and they account for budgeting of state, federal, and local funds. The superintendent is a large part of who's in charge at the local level. This is, of course, a paid, hired position. The duties of a superintendent are oversees daily operations, supervises district principals and staff, work with school board members, manage fiscal operations, hiring staff, and lobbying for additional resources. At the state level, we look at the State House of Representatives and the Senate. These, of course, are elected individuals. In Texas, the Texas Education Agency, or TEA, is in charge of schools. The leaders in the TEA are Mike Morath. He's the commissioner. This is a paid position. And a little bit about the TEA commissioner's office. He really takes what the state has to say, puts it in words, and puts it in policies and procedures that then is looked at to be passed down to the local governments. Underneath him are 7 deputy commissioners. These are, again, paid positions. And then you've got your state school board that are elected out of the TEA. At the federal, you've got the Department of Education. Betsy DeVos is the head of that right now. She was nominated by President Trump and then confirmed by the U.S. Senate. This is, of course, a paid position. And then you have Congress that is passing regulations as well. So who then has the most power when you're looking at education? And you can see here by the breakdown, really, I feel like it is basically the state and the local responsibility. And as you can tell by the graph, state has the majority of the responsibility in funding and really the rules and policies that come down. So when we look at the NELP Standard 6 and the different components, and we analyze who's really responsible for those, ultimately the local government is going to be responsible for implementing all of these standards. But then you also have state and federal that's going to be included. So if you look at component 1, I think that mainly addresses the local government because they have a lot of influence over how the standards are going to be used to support each student in their learning needs and the learning process. This is going to be where you're going to see from school to school kind of different definitions of what that type of support is, whether it is one-on-one support or it is group support or different things like that. Component 6.2, I think this brings in the state government into it as well as the local. It's one of those things that if the local government fails to uphold these policies and procedures, or the students are not performing to what the level that they need to be performing at, the state will step in, and then at that point, they will put into action any of those standards that need to be there to bring the school back up to the level it needs to be performing at. Component 6.3, I think this is supported definitely by all 3, federal, state, and local. While we do have some policies that come down from the federal level that we have to follow in schools, a lot of those do come from the state or from the federal to the state. The state then makes any changes and passes on to the local. And then it's up to the local government to enforce those policies. So if we're looking at the success for all, what does that look like for each area of the government? So what is federal going to be doing to make sure that our students are succeeding? The 4 main parts that I found that the federal government supports in school education is that they are ensuring that no student will be denied the equal right to an education. They provide some funding to facilitate access to education opportunities for high-need students. These are going to be our students that are in a poverty level or low income and such like that. Support education research and development, and support the development of conditions to promote continuous improvement of state and local education systems. The federal government, we need to understand, is mainly there as a support for the state, and then from the state to the local. So what does this look like at the state level? The state is primary accountability and oversight for government-run schools. So they are in charge of what ultimately is the school doing. If the school's not doing the things that they need to be doing, then the state will step in and make those corrections. States will establish their own departments of education. They will pass laws governing school practices. And then states provide for slightly less than half of the school's operating costs. At the local level for success, we have the establishment of our curriculum and benchmarking and different things like that, hiring personnel, school closings, consolidations, constructions, implementing and monitoring policies and procedures, and then, of course, accounting for the budget. And then these are my references from the works cited. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I look forward to everything we're going to be learning in this class.